Hi, everyone. Welcome to a special tournament edition of the NBC4 Sports Digital Roundtable. This is going to be very fun because it is the most enjoyable time of the year. 'Tis March, and we are fired up. So we got the whole band together here. We got Whitney Harding, Joe Nugent, David Guzman, the whole squad. And we're going to break down. We're talking Ohio State today. We're going to talk about the men's team and about the women's team. And we're going to talk about the tournament at large toward the end of the show. We're going to start with the men's side. And that is, I'm here merely to play the role of distributor. All right. I'm going to be a leader and assist today. And I'm going to start with a very important question. Whitney, you get it first. All right.
Great.
As we sit here today, is Ohio State an NCAA tournament team?
I think that as far as the committee goes, they are. Me personally, I'm kind of on the fence because if you'd asked me a few weeks or a month ago, I would have said yes for sure because they had great wins and they didn't have any bad losses. And I feel like since then, they've kind of accumulated some bad losses. But I also kind of think it says where the rest of the country is that the committee has them in. So as far as if they're going to get in or not, I think right now they will.
David, what do you think?
I have to see how the rest of the conference tournaments shake out. But if I was just judging on just Ohio State, I'm kind of leaning toward a no. And I know like Jake Diavolo would hate me if I say that, but here's the thing. I look at Ohio State, they have some great wins, but you have to take the same weight that you put towards the wins, also towards the losses. And a lot of those losses, you've seen them kind of give up large leads, and we can talk about it later. I think that weighs against you. So yeah, right now it's kind of a no for me.
It's a no for me, dog. It sounds like American Idol. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what David just said. I think it really comes down to what happens. I think if you're an Ohio State fan, certainly the Big Ten tournament is going to be important to watch. But more so than that, I'd be watching North Carolina. I'd be watching UAB. I'd be watching North Texas. I think Colorado State is a team you need to watch. Hey, if Dayton wins the A-10 and they beat VCU on the way, maybe the A-10 gets two bids. I think Ohio State, unfortunately, has put itself in this situation where it doesn't really control unless they make a really deep run in the Big Ten. But, I think the Buckeyes are, they're kind of at a spot here where it really matters what happens across the country this week.
That's a really
They
good
don't
point.
want chaos.
Yeah, they sure
No
don't.
chaos.
If North Texas affects your future, you've already put yourself in quite a pickle, if you will, with the NCAA tournament. Let's talk a little bit about what Jake Ebler was saying after the Indiana game. We're going to play you a soundbite here from Jake after the game, where he's talking about the deficiencies. They were very real, and they came to life, especially in the final minutes of that game. They really struggled with offensive sets. The rebounding was a significant issue, as it has been all year, physical play. And here's Jake talking about how he's going to try to continue to address those with his team moving forward.
We get caught ball watching at times. And again, especially with some of our young guys, there's some habits that they've been fighting to break this year. And, this game requires, extreme physicality, and you can oftentimes get away with a lot when the shot goes up. And then there were times where we actually did box out really well and we didn't secure the ball. I mean, it felt like at least 2 or 3 times we didn't secure the ball when we had great rebounding position. But we got some guys who are a little too lenient on our athleticism and rebounding and not lenient enough on our physicality. It's something we work on rebounding every single day. And, there was a stretch there where we were doing much better and our defense was better because of it. We've also gotten in trouble a couple times with guys, shooting and then cleaning up their own miss. And that's, again, a technique we practice, every single day. So I do think our guys, our effort is not the issue. I think our awareness at times, we get caught staring. And instead of going to create more space for us to rebound down the floor by going and initiating contact further out on the floor, we wait too much, for guys to come hit us.
That is a big D-Bush take after the Indiana game. So we're going to show you here what the Big Ten tournament bracket looks like. They'll get it going tomorrow in Indianapolis. And the Buckeyes, because of that loss to Indiana, they've got an early pace. They're on the court tomorrow where they get Iowa. And by the way, that Northwestern Minnesota tip, dozens of people are going to be fired up for that. Sorry, Whitney. You got the Buckeyes and Iowa again. Buckeyes beat the Hawkeyes by 17. That was in late January in their only meeting this year. If USC Rutgers is the nightcap, then You get the Buckeyes. If they win the game, they've got Illinois Thursday in the late game. Buckeyes, of course, lost a relatively tight game in Champaign not that long ago. That was in February. That's their only meeting this year. And again, the top 4 seeds: Michigan State, Maryland, Michigan, UCLA. Purdue is a little bit of a surprise as a lower seed in this tournament. They have to play an extra game if they want to go all the way through it. So let's talk about this, where Ohio State stands right now. When you look at the team, if they make a gauntlet run like that, Joe, when you think about where they've got to get to accomplish their goals and win a bunch of games in this tournament, do they have the horses to do it?
Yeah, I mean, starting with the first one, I mean, I feel good about the game against Iowa. Played the Hawkeyes once. It was right after the national championship game in football this year, and they blew them out. Iowa really hasn't had a good win in the last month. I don't count what they did this past weekend in Nebraska because the Huskers have really fallen off. So feel good about the Buckeyes out of the gate. The second game against Wisconsin, it was a tight game the last time around, which, could help, the Buckeyes kind of have that mental advantage of trying to beat these guys after they got us in a tight one the last time around. And then from there, yeah, I don't know. I mean, UCLA, we just saw that game, obviously, a couple of weeks ago on the West Coast. I think ultimately, Ohio State had a bad day that game. So, I do think that it's possible that they can beat UCLA. Obviously, they're not going to be the favorite in that game, but if they string a couple wins together, they have some momentum, and then they go play a team that they just saw a couple weeks ago. I think that they could win that game.
Whitney, I want to get back to something we talk about there at Ohio State. This is, you take them as a wide view and looking at their resume and what they've done this season. I just worry about them as a rebounding team. The way that Aaron Bradshaw didn't really turn out the way that people had hoped. I know there was some big hope for Sean Stewart as well, as a guy who transferred from Duke and had some high school credentials. And Stewart hasn't had, by any means, a terrible season, but it just hasn't been a star in that regard from a physical standpoint for Ohio State. I just think if you're going to win that many games against Big Ten competition, I really wonder if they've got enough rebounding stamina to get that done.
And that is the big question, because this is a team that if they can get hot from 3, they can beat a lot of teams. And that's the hard part about March, right? Is you sometimes run into those buzzsaw teams who either play a full court press and get real deflection handsy, or they can make a bunch of 3s and you can't stop them. If Ohio State can make 3s, they are suddenly a very scary team. But they need those to go in because they just cannot get second chances, because the rebounding has been such a struggle. And that is where teams have gotten them, is those second chance opportunities. So I'm curious what happens if they can get maybe 1 or 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament, get into the big tournament, and see against non-Big Ten competition how critical that's going to be. Because let's face it, we talk about all the time, Big Ten play is very different than the rest of the country.
It sure is. David, as we set up this next part, I want you to help everyone get a look at Ohio State's resume this season. And I'm gonna read just some stats that we put together, and we'll show you here as well what the current resume looks like as they go to Indianapolis, right? So they're 17-14 overall. Their opponents typically do not shoot the lights out from 3 against them. They're pretty consistent in their 3-point percentage defense. They're 36 in the current net rankings. They're only 6-11 in quad 1 games, which is concerning. If you're looking for a data point that helps them, that's probably not a strong argument. Against the best teams in the league, obviously that's a problem. 4-7 in true road games, also not great for them. But here's the really tough one. Ohio State is just about the worst team in the country fouling. Nearly 20 fouls a game this season. That ranks them, and I counted this, 345th in the country, David. You add that and the rebounding thing together, and that's a tough thing to overcome.
It's insane because, you think about this team, the glimpses of potential that we've seen, and they've reached that potential several times. I mean, early in the season, they surprised people, beating Texas, and, they were beating Kentucky. They were getting the wins that would build a resume, but I think the committee really looks at how a team is doing at this point in the year. And man, that loss to Indiana really is so glaring. If I'm looking at a resume and I see that they had a double-digit lead, and this isn't the first time they've had a double-digit lead late in games, and they kind of give it up. So here's the thing. Like, you got to dig deep now, right? I mean, you got to dig deep now. If you want to be the team that you've said you can be, this is the time to do it. Make that run. Get to Friday, maybe get to Saturday, and prove everyone wrong. But you're not doing yourself any favor if you come out on Wednesday and kind of flop. I mean, and then hope that the committee is going to look at your previous wins, because it's about how you're doing right now in March. And I'm telling you, unless they turn things around in Indianapolis, I just don't see them playing in the tournament. I think they're going to have to settle for another tournament.
We'll find out for sure. That's that day is coming. Judgment Day is coming very soon. In fact, this week in Indianapolis. We're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the Ohio State women's situation. Big Ten tournament now in the rear view. Where do they go from here? What are their NCAA prospects? And of course, we'll talk about the whole tournament bracket all ahead here on the Digital Roundtable. We're back. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Digital Roundtable here with NBC4 Sports. The whole squad assembled today as we talk about the NCAA tournament. We're going now to the women's side of things. They're now done with the Big Ten tournament. The regular season is complete. They're 24-6 after the final loss of the tournament to UCLA. So we're going to put it to the team here. Overall, Joe, I'll start with you. Did the Buckeye women meet your expectations for them at the start of the year?
Man, I mean, they were so hot at the start of the year. My expectations, I think they changed throughout November and December with how good they play. Now, I think if you go back to the preseason, I think they've hit those expectations for the most part. And then once we saw the non-conference, it really looked like they were going to be in the mix to be a top 5 team, top 10 team at this point, which right now they're not. It's been a little bit of a struggle as of late, but we'll see. They've got injuries, right? We'll probably talk about that. That's a big thing going forward.
Yeah, big names. And I think that's a good segue, Whitney, when you think about, and we'll get into more about the injuries later, but when you think about one of the things they've always had to fight with this team is, early in the season, for example, last couple of years, Madison Green with knee injuries has been a big setback in terms of guard depth. They got her back this year, but they don't have her maybe quite at the level that she was a couple of years ago. You just wonder, if it's kind of a similar situation. They've got some high-end talent, but you wonder if they have enough depth to give them a real shot to make a run in March.
Yeah, and it's a similar situation where it's all rebounding. It really is. It all comes down to rebounding, just because they don't have that size like you see with a UCLA or with USC. They don't have the height of like a Lauren Betty, but they have height around and the guard and the forward spot bigger than other teams. So you can see that they're a much better rebounding team. And if Ohio State can at least get some rebounds, I think that's good. They've also recently had some shooting woes, and that's something that we didn't see earlier on. Chance Gray was incredible early on this season, and now she's kind of gone quiet. And that's that depth, Jared, that you were talking about. If they can get some points from other people besides Cody and Jelani, who we don't really know what's going on with them right now, then they can get going again. But they've got to have scoring, and not just little bits, but actual real chunk scoring outside those two people.
Yeah, David, we're going to get to comments here from Coach McGuff that we got after their loss in the Big Ten tournament. And obviously, this is a brief comment from him, but it's just talking about resetting. When you dump the Big Ten tournament, this is about talking about what do you do in the week ahead here. You got 2 weeks basically to get ready for an NCAA tournament, right? And depending on your travel or whatever. So, David, let's hear from Coach McGuff about trying to get ready and get right.
We need really good focus practices. I mean, it's, I'm a big believer in you practice or you play how you practice. And so we need to get, we'll take a couple of days off, but we need to have a great week here coming up. And then next Sunday, we'll figure out who we're playing and what the path looks like, and we'll start to prepare. But really, it's got to start. We got to have really focused, spirited practices.
All right, so on that, I'm also going to give you a look here at Ohio State's women's resume right now. And obviously 24-6, another great season. You'd love to have it. But when you think about what they have done statistically, there's some quirky things in here. They are second in the country in turnover margin. It is not a mistake. It's a classic Kevin McGuff situation. They will lock you down, especially full court pressure when they want to bring that out. It's really hard to get the Buckeyes on their heels. So that's their real strength. They finished 5-5 against quad one opponents. Pretty good. Their net is 19. right now, which you kind of wonder if that's on the fringe, if they're going to be able to host a first and second round game. We'll eventually find out here soon enough. Undefeated at home this season, another great attribute for the team. They were 6-5 on the road, 17th nationally in scoring, but 151st in defense, which is just not what Kevin McGuff demands from his team. They definitely would have to be better in the back end. And here's a weird one, David. They're a 68% free throw shooting team. You know where that ranks in the country? 257.
Wow.
Apparently, the free throw defense, and Ohio State's a part of it, has been extraordinary.
You know what's interesting about this team is we were talking about reset before Kevin McGuff talked. They do have this amazing ability to reset, because I think about that loss to Penn State. That was one of those examples of just like having a bad day. They clearly just had a bad day there. But they're able to reset. And then I think about that stretch where they were, playing overtime after overtime game, and they were able to win those games. And what's interesting is that their mindset was, well, how did we get overtime in the first place? Which tells you that this is a team that knows their potential. They know how good they can be. So they hate going to overtime in the first place, but they're able to hit the reset button right when the game goes to overtime. I'd be tired, after the way this team plays, with the way they are able to press on defense. I'm tired. So the way that they're able to find the energy to turn things around, even after being forced to go to overtime, it's pretty impressive. And I think that will serve them well in the NCAA tournament. The question is, of course, depending on how the tournament seeds and if they get to host or not, how will they be able to dig deep when their backs are really against the wall? So far, their other losses are against teams that, again, are really good. I mean, UCLA, USC, those are really good teams. So they're not surprises. Do I think they have the ability to make a deep run? I think so. And I really think they also have to be motivated by how they lost last year. I mean, an early exit from the tournament is not something they wanted.
Yeah, it's just not what they're used to, especially the last couple of years. They've had these teams that were Final Four quality, and just couldn't quite, get over the hump there. We are back on the Digital Roundtable. Here's a look at the likely top seeds in the NCAA tournament when the bracket is announced Sunday night. Again, we've got to get through the conference championships first, but Duke looks like a really good contender for the number one overall seed. They've got a win over Auburn. They're 19-1 in the ACC. Cooper Flagg might be the best player in the country. Auburn, they lost twice this last week, but still some incredible wins this season. Great players. Houston, all they do is defend you. The number one defensive team in America. They have some big losses, but they've also beaten some outstanding teams. They went 19-1 in the Big 12. And then Florida, among all those SEC teams, they had some turmoil with their head coach. They're still able to put together an outstanding season in the SEC, 15-3. Walter Clayton Jr. is the truth. And with that, we'll bring the whole group back here and talk about the NCAA tournament. Obviously, we live in Big Ten country, so that's where we kind of live. But the SEC is pretty loaded, and we can even tip our cap and admit it when you think about it. Who all is coming out of the SEC this year? With Auburn, Florida, Alabama, who just beat Auburn. Tennessee's been great. Missouri's been great. A&M, Kentucky got it together. Obviously, Ohio State beat Kentucky earlier in the year. Kentucky kind of found itself a little bit. Ole Miss is a well-coached team. You got to tip your cap, right? This league is loaded, Whitney.
Yes, and I mean it's been funny because after I covered the SEC in basketball for many years, it was one or two teams and kind of everybody else. And now I think it's been an influx of superior coaching. They have really gotten some big heavy hitter coaches, whether it's experienced guys like Bruce Pearl or younger guys like we've seen at some of these other places that are just brilliant. I mean, the job that Mark Pope has done over at Kentucky is incredible. I'm following up what he had to follow up. And they're playing a fun style of basketball, that conference. It really has been fun to watch this year.
I'm wondering, David and Joe, who's the player of the year? Because when you think about Cooper Flagg at Duke, but then Jedi Broome at Auburn at 6'10", has been incredible this season. Most people are kind of thinking those are the two that you're picking between for player of the year, and they both have teams that are going to lead in this NCAA tournament. If you got to pick one, Joe, who would you pick?
I'd go with Cooper Flagg. to me, the turnaround at Duke has been really impressive. The fact that they've only lost one game going back to practically Thanksgiving, and I think Duke comes in actually as the strong favorite to win this thing, just because Auburn's dropped the last 2 games. So I'm gonna go with the best player on the best team, which
Hot take.
sometimes is way too easy. But listen, I like Cooper. I like what Duke is doing. They've been consistent the whole way. I mean, certainly Auburn can get it back together, no question about it. But I also have my doubts about the SEC. You're going to get 13 teams in probably, but last year only 3 teams made it to the round of 32. So you're talking about going from really one extreme to another. If they're this year, if they do have a strong postseason like they had a strong regular season, it's going to be a dramatic change from what they did last year in the postseason.
For sure. David, I want to ask you about the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Michigan State,
Please.
the last Big Ten team to win a national title. It was 25 years ago. Purdue almost did it last year, got to the final. When you think about this year's group, is there anybody you can see winning 6 games?
Oof. I mean, Michigan State's just been, they've proven, night in and night out in this gauntlet of what is the Big Ten to just be really consistent. And that's what you want to see, right? You want to see some consistency at this point of the year, but you also think about the teams, you think about how crazy March Madness is, right? And I'm like, well, this would also be the same team that would suffer an early exit. This would be the same team that would probably lose in like the second round, and we'd all be talking about it, and our brackets are busted. That being said, consistency does mean something, right? So, and I think when you look at how every team has done in the Big Ten, Michigan State and Michigan have always been up there. And I know it hurts people here in the Buckeye State when we talk about that, but I really think between those two, they can really make this deep run. And if they're not, I would be very careful though about the team that wins a conference tournament, because that puts a huge target on your back, and then that team seems to be the biggest target to be upset early. So I'm interested to see how the Big Ten tournament shakes out this week. I think that'll give us a bigger gauge as to who might be primed for that deep run in March.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Short on time here, but I'm going to get one last thing in before we go. And Whitney, this is a direct question to you, okay? It's about blue bloods who are struggling right now. Is Kansas going to make a run?
No, they're not going to make a run. It's a very frustrating team, and I'm just flat out saying no. And my dad is going to be very upset.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to believe like North Carolina might not get in, right? I mean, just a wild
Different world.
year. And Georgetown's not having a great year. Syracuse having a bad year. Just been, but that's what makes it great. That's what makes it a great month. It's been good to get the whole band back together, hasn't it? It's like a good warm feeling in our hearts. And the good news is, we're only getting started. Our coverage is going to continue all month long here as we continue throughout the tournament. Got a lot of coverage coming your way on all our digital platforms over the next few weeks, and we're excited to bring it to you. Thanks to Whitney, thanks to Joe, thanks to David, the whole squad, and we'll see you back here next time on the Digital Roundtable.